Marie Curie slept next to glowing radium every night. It killed her. The most famous female scientist in history kept glowing vials of radium by her pillow. She called them her fairy lights. Every night for years, she watched them shimmer in the dark before she closed her eyes. She carried test tubes of radioactive material in her coat pocket like loose change. She stirred boiling pitchblende with an iron rod in a shed with no ventilation, processing tons of ore by hand for 4 years. She won 2 Nobel Prizes. She saved 1 million soldiers on the battlefields of World War I. She gave the world radiation therapy, mobile X-rays, and the entire field of nuclear medicine. She died of radiation poisoning. Here is the part nobody tells you. She knew. She knew for at least 15 years that the thing she loved was killing her. Her fingers were covered in burns that never healed. Her husband died in a street accident and a part of her died with him, but the radium kept glowing. So she kept working. This is the story of the woman who discovered radium, conquered science, and then walked into her laboratory every morning knowing the air she breathed was poison. Maria Skłodowska was born in Warsaw in 1867, in a Poland that didn't exist on any map, partitioned and occupied by the Russian Empire. Her mother died of tuberculosis when Maria was 10. Her eldest sister died of typhus. She grew up poor, brilliant, and hungry. In Russian-occupied Poland, women were not permitted to attend university. So she worked as a governess for wealthy families, teaching their children arithmetic while saving every coin she could. She made a pact with her sister Bronislawa. I will support you through medical school in Paris, and then you will support me. In 1891, at age 24, Bronislawa sent word, "Come." Maria boarded a train to Paris with a folding chair, a blanket, and almost no money. She enrolled at the Sorbonne. She was so poor she often lived on bread and tea. She fainted in class from hunger. Her attic room was so cold in winter that she piled all her clothes on top of her blanket and still shivered. She graduated first in her class in physics, then first in mathematics. In 1894, she met Marie Curie, a quiet, gentle physicist 8 years older than her, already respected in his field. He had built a sensitive instrument that could measure tiny electrical currents. He gave her lab space. She gave him purpose. They married in 1895. She wore a dark blue dress she could reuse in the laboratory. They took a bicycle trip through the French countryside for their honeymoon, and then they got to work. In 1896, Henri Becquerel discovered that uranium salts emitted mysterious rays. Marie Curie decided to investigate. Pierre built her a makeshift laboratory, a shed behind the School of Physics in Paris. It had been a medical dissection room. It had a dirt floor, a leaking glass roof, no ventilation, and no hoods for chemical fumes. In winter, the temperature inside was 40 degrees. In summer, it was a furnace. Marie processed tons of pitchblende ore by hand. She stirred boiling vats with an iron rod as heavy as she was. She shoveled crushed ore into cauldrons. She filtered, precipitated, and crystallized over and over for 4 years. She was looking for the source of the energy in uranium. What she found changed the world. In 1898, she isolated an element never before seen by human eyes. She named it polonium for her native Poland. Later that year, she found a second element far more powerful, far more mysterious. She named it radium. The Curies would walk back to the shed at night just to watch the radium glowing in glass dishes on the tables. Marie wrote in her journal, "The glowing tubes looked like faint fairy lights." She fell in love with it. And radium was already falling in love with her bones. In 1903, Marie and Marie Curie shared the Nobel Prize in Physics with Henri Becquerel. Marie was the first woman in history to win a Nobel Prize. The shed where she had done the work was still standing. The radium was still glowing. And her hands were already starting to scar. Here is exactly what Marie Curie knew. She knew that radium burned her skin. Her fingers were covered in lesions, radium burns that cracked open, healed, and cracked open again. She and Pierre both experienced it. Pierre once intentionally taped a small amount of radium to his forearm. He watched it burn through his skin over several weeks and wrote about it with scientific detachment. She knew that laboratory animals exposed to radium were dying. She knew that other researchers who worked with radioactive materials were falling ill, strange anemias, unexplained cancers, chronic fatigue. She knew that the fairy lights had teeth, and she refused to believe they were a threat to her. This was not denial in the ordinary sense. It was something closer to a marriage. She had given her entire life to radium, years of poverty, years of backbreaking labor, years of being mocked and dismissed by the male scientific establishment. Radium had given her 2 Nobel Prizes, a chair at the Sorbonne, and an identity beyond anything that hungry girl from Warsaw could have imagined. You do not walk away from the thing that made you. The radium lived in her pockets. It lived on her desk. It lived on her nightstand, glowing beside her while she slept. She thought it was beautiful, and all the while the radium was replacing the calcium in her bones. It was embedding itself in her marrow. It was poisoning her blood slowly, silently, with the same faint light she called a fairy. On April 19, 1906, a rainy Thursday in Paris, Marie Curie was crossing the Rue Dauphine. He was distracted, thinking about an experiment probably. He stepped out from behind a stopped cab into the path of a heavy horse-drawn wagon. He slipped on the wet cobblestones. The rear wheel ran over his skull. He died instantly. He was 46 years old. Marie lost her husband, her lab partner, her scientific equal, and the only person on earth who understood what the work meant to her. She was 38 years old with 2 small children, Iron, 8, and Eve, 1. She never remarried. She took over Pierre's position at the Sorbonne, the first woman to hold a professorship there. She threw herself harder into the work, into the radium, into the thing they had built together, and the work threw itself harder into her. In the years after Pierre's death, her health collapsed in slow motion. Chronic fatigue so deep she could barely stand. Ringing in her ears that wouldn't stop. Cataracts forming over both eyes, radiation cataracts, though the medical term did not exist yet. She lost weight she couldn't afford to lose. Her fingers trembled when she held a pen. And still, every morning, she walked into the laboratory where the walls themselves had absorbed decades of radiation. She was not ignorant. She was grieving, and the only thing that made the grief bearable was the work that was killing her. By the 1920s, the evidence was undeniable. In New Jersey, a group of young women who painted luminous watch dials with radium-based paint were dying. They were called the Radium Girls. They had been told the paint was harmless. They had licked the brushes to get a fine point, a technique their supervisors taught them. Their jaws were rotting. Their bones were crumbling. Their teeth fell out in clumps. They glowed in the dark, and they were dying one by one before they turned 30. Marie Curie knew about the Radium Girls. The story made international news. She knew about the factory workers who were getting sick. She knew about the scientists who had died of radiation-induced cancers. She knew, and she kept working. She had to convince herself that her relationship with radium was different, that she had been careful enough, that her body was strong enough, that the thing she had discovered, the thing she had named, the thing that glowed beside her while she slept, could not possibly be her murderer. It was. On July 4, 1934, Marie Curie died of aplastic anemia, a disease in which the bone marrow stops producing blood cells. Her body had lost the ability to make blood. Radiation had destroyed her from the inside. She was 66. She had been dying for 30 years. Marie Curie's notebooks are still radioactive. Almost a century after her death, you cannot access her personal papers without signing a legal waiver. Visitors to the French National Library who request her journals must handle them in protective gear. They are stored in lead-lined boxes. Her body lies in the Panthéon, the mausoleum of France's greatest citizens. Her coffin is lined with nearly an inch of lead. In 1995, when her remains were transferred there, the officials had to acknowledge that Marie Curie was still one of the most radioactive human beings ever buried. And yet, during World War I, Marie Curie designed and personally drove mobile X-ray units to the front lines. She called them petites curies, little curies. She convinced wealthy friends to donate vehicles. She trained 150 women to operate the equipment. She convinced military doctors, skeptical, dismissive male, to let her scan wounded soldiers so surgeons could find the shrapnel and save the limbs. Those mobile X-ray units are conservatively estimated to have saved 1 million lives. The radium she discovered became the foundation of cancer treatment. Radiation therapy, the tool that has extended millions of lives, exists because Marie Curie stirred boiling pitchblende in a shed with her bare hands. She gave her body to the work, and the work gave back to the world. Both things are true. She was the mother of modern physics, and she was a woman who loved her discovery more than her own life. She was a humanitarian who saved millions, and she was a scientist in denial about the poison in her own bloodstream. She understood radium better than anyone alive. She still let it take her. That is not a tragedy of ignorance. That is a tragedy of devotion. There is a photograph of Marie Curie taken a few years before she died. She looks older than 60. Her face is thin. Her fingers are visibly damaged, but her eyes are exactly the same eyes as the hungry girl from Warsaw who boarded a train to Paris with nothing but a blanket and a mind on fire. She never stopped. She knew the radium was killing her, and she never stopped. She once said, "Nothing in life is to be feared, it is only to be understood." She understood radium better than any human being alive. And still, she let the fairy lights watch over her every night. Some people are not afraid of the thing that kills them. Some people are afraid of a life without the thing that makes them feel alive. Next week, the Radium Girls, the young women who painted watch dials with radioactive paint. They were told it was safe. They were told to lick the brushes. And then they watched their own jaws fall apart, and they fought back from their deathbeds to change the world.